So Jesus is walking with them, and then they get to the house, and he's about to keep walking. And they said, well, they still didn't know who he was, right, in Luke 24. And they said, well, won't you just come in and have something, stay with us, come and enjoy, let's have a meal, and you can stay with us, and don't be a stranger. And they welcomed him in, and he came. You know, he's just going to keep walking if you don't invite him in. It's funny, it's interesting that he was behaving as if he was going to keep walking until they said, won't you come in? Because even though Jesus was there at that moment, he didn't want to impose. He's only going where he's invited. He's only coming in if we invite him. They said, please, won't you just stay with us? And so he goes in and he sits down, and in verse 30, in Luke chapter 24, verse 30, now it came to pass as he sat at the table with them that he took bread, he blessed and he broke it and gave it to them. And in verse 31, and their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and then he vanished from their sight. It was a lesson he was teaching them, and he was showing them, and he was showing us. He's a lesson that he's teaching us. He was with them the whole time, but he only made himself seen by them part of the time, and then he caused them to see him as a person they didn't recognize until he broke the bread and blessed it. He blessed the bread and he broke it and he gave it to them. And it says in verse 31, and their eyes were opened and they recognized him. Was he always there? Was he already there? But they couldn't recognize him. But when he took the bread, blessed it and broke it and gave it to them, they recognized him. Their eyes were opened and they recognized him. He said, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age, even to the end of time. He said, I'm with you always, even to the end of time. In other words, Jesus presence in our lives is going to outlast time. Because time is a limited measurement. It's something we measure with, but God doesn't measure the same way. For a day is as 1,000 years to the Lord, and 1,000 years is as a day. And so he says, I'm going to be with you to the end of time. When time runs out, my presence won't run out. I'm going to be with you all the way until time runs out. And then when time runs out, I'm still going to be here, and I'm not going to run out. Time's going to run out, but I'm never running out. Time's going to run out, but I will always be with you. Wow, what a promise that he will always be with us. He is always with us. We need to recognize he is with you. He said, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. What age? 30? 40? 50? 60? 1,000? 1,000,000? He is with us to the end of the age. In other words, when time is no longer being measured and we are simply living in eternity, he will always be with us. And he will always be with us between now and then as well. Recognize that he is with you even when you don't feel him.